Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening and welcome to the City of Lincoln's regular meeting of the City Council. Tonight's meeting will be televised and available on cable channel 18 and via Zoom. This evening's invocation will be given by Pastor Mark Welch of Ridge Church. Once the invocation has concluded, Mayor Pearl will call the meeting to order.
Oh, dear Lord, it's a good day. It's a good day to live in Lincoln. It's a good day to be here. Father, just little old us, and we're nothing special, none of us, without your help. But we do come today to seek great wisdom for those that lead our city. And Lord, we are just so grateful for each one of them and the sacrifice that they put in to make this the greatest little city anywhere. And we're so grateful to live here. Father, help us to be servants in our hearts and to do more than just be proud, but to give of ourselves to make this the place that you want it to be. I just pray that you'll be with the mayor and each one that gives so much here at City Council and leads us into the future. We pray it will be a fine future, a city of peace, a city of joy, and a city of progress with your hand helping us. Give us wisdom, and you say you won't put us down for asking for it, but you'll give it to us, and we thank you. You're good to us always. Please take care of those that are needy and help us to do a better job with that as well. We thank you that we live in a free nation, a place where all religions are welcome to worship and respecting all other faiths, I pray tonight in the name of Jesus, my Lord. Amen.
Thanks, Mark.
Hey, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Eklund. Here. Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Reedy.
Here.
Mayor Pearl.
Here.
And noted that Councilmember Andriotta is absent.
Good. Any reports from closed session? Great, that takes care of that. Very easy, very good. Ms. DeRocher, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Modifications to the agenda tonight from my colleagues. Have none. Staff? Oops, one time.
So this evening, I'm going to have Fire Chief Mejia come on up. He is going to give the 2025 annual report of the fire department. And he has learned so much in his time here. And the most important thing he learned was that department heads there's an edict, which is that no presentation shall be more than 10 minutes. So enjoy.
I learned that the hard way, but good evening, City Council, Mayor. Anthony Mejia, Fire Chief. Tonight I'm going to be giving a presentation on the 2025 annual report. Really, this is an opportunity for me to brag on all of our firefighters and all the good work that they've done last year. You'll see you have a printed version ahead of you. I'm not going to bore you with every detail, but this is going to be really a highlight of the highlights. So last year, we ran over 6,600 incidents, and so that's upwards of 200 plus calls from the previous year. That's kind of the trend that we're on. So I really do see us in 2026 running over 7,000 incidents, really with the growth and everything we see in the department. This next slide you're going to see is really our mission, vision, values slide. This is one that Mayor Pearl kind of beat me up on with the fire master plan and said, hey, you didn't have a vision statement. And so this was something that we wanted to tackle this year. Our vision is to support and develop our firefighters, preserve the traditions that define our service, and strive for continual growth and excellence as we fulfill our mission for the protecting Lincoln. And really what I would tell you is this really kind of was something that we wanted to make sure encapsulated taking care of firefighters, holding true to our traditions, and really pushing for growth and excellence in what we're doing, and also staying true to our mission. Next is really an impact by the numbers. The two numbers I really want to focus on here is emergency medical incidents at 4,200 and 150 towards our fire incidents. You can see that 80% of our calls are emergency-based, and over 3,000 of those were advanced life support requiring paramedics. And so that's really going to be our driver for where we're trying to go. And 150 fire incidents. Those 150 fire incidents is really setting the stage for this slide. This is assets saved by the numbers. We had over $98 million in assets threatened last year. I juiced up the numbers, obviously, with 12 Bridges High School, but hey, if that thing burned down, that was going to be a big $80 million chunk right there. But really, no, our firefighters stood in the way of losing any assets that were extreme value. We had over only $365,000 of assets lost, which I would tell you that's not even one structure fire. So we really held all of our fires to room and contents fires, kept them from burning down even just one structure in the whole city over a year, which I was going to tell you that's going to be a very hard bar to keep. But we're really going to highlight it last year as one of our big achievements. Next is community connections. We really went out, I think, and did a great job trying to connect with the community in many different types of events, from the everyday station tours to just going out and meeting with schools and all the different events that we did. We have our hallmark events like the Turkey Drive, Santa Tours, and actually we had a department meeting at the beginning of this year, and I had brought this up and said, hey, how do we really want to structure our calendar? And the guys actually said, we want to add more to the calendar. So we actually have more events planned for next year. So that just shows the heart of the firefighters and where they're at with trying to connect with the community. Next is training. So we have a lot of required hours for training, state mandated, and also the training hours that we put upon ourselves. Over 8,800 hours went to training. It's really a part of who we are and what we want to do. We continually want to be better. And I will tell you, coming from different fire departments, this is not an easy one. Sometimes you're dragging your firefighters to go out and train. This is not the mentality of our Lincoln firefighters. They want to go out, they want to get better. They like improving, and this really shows it. Next is our mutual aid deployments. So last year, what we consider a very slow fire season, believe it or not. But we also had two of the most devastating fires in California's history that happened in the very beginning of the last year. And we sent multiple units down there. One thing I will tell you, again, kind of about the culture of Lincoln Fire is it's hard for a lot of surrounding agencies to get units to want to go out and go to these out-of-county responses. Our firefighters are really wanting to go. And matter of fact, sometimes I have to tell them, like, I don't think we can maybe go to that one. And so, but that's just where we're at. We always want to go out and help out the state in any way we can. And so when they see a fire happen, I have more than willing volunteers to go out and assist. Community risk reduction, with the growth of the city, we had a lot of plans that we had to approve. We had a lot of different things that we had to try to accomplish and get through, and we really don't have a prevention staff. So these stats are really good in the sense that we're doing a lot with a little, and we're looking at trying to improve that, obviously with the fire marshal position getting approved, and we're looking to fill that. But we accomplished quite a bit with what we have, and so with the size of the city and where we're growing, I was super happy that we were able to complete everything that was on our plate. Really, our big accomplishments for 2025 was our first accomplishment of increasing that ISO rating from a class 4 to a class 2. That really is a huge accomplishment. Next is our operations guide and Lexa policy manual. That is the first time we've ever had an operations guide and a policy manual implemented in Lincoln Fire. When I got here, there was 8 directives that we were managing the whole fire department on, which is kind of hard to do. Now we have a 600-page policy manual that I would have thought would have had a lot of resistance coming from us, only 7 directives. But our firefighters were somebody that embraced it. We've had it for almost 6 months now. It's done us a lot of good. And our operations guide really puts a cohesiveness to all of our tactics and what we're doing out in the field. And they've really embraced that. We completed that fire master plan, which is really setting us up for the next couple years to really plan for how we want to grow and the things that we want to do in the department. And we also implemented a lot of technology. So we were able to implement stuff that was really cutting edge, one of the first ones in the region to actually implement it. And now all of the surrounding agencies within us are operating on the same platform. And so we were able to bring that into the region. And next we had some personal milestones with retirements. We had 2 firefighters that had some of 30-plus years, 20-plus years, able to acknowledge them. One new hire, and then we had multiple promotions all the way from engineer, captain, battalion chief, and then even my position, which really just set the organization in a really good direction. And so we're very happy with where we're headed and what we're going with all of these accomplishments. Lastly, is we really want to thank everybody for their support. We've accomplished quite a bit. I've been in fire departments where there are maybe certain parts of this that can be oppositions, and that's really not what we have. We have major support from everybody, from the residents in the city of Lincoln to the mayor, the city council, our city manager, our city staff, as well as our mutual aid partners, even our local community groups, our local foundation that we have that is very supportive of us. And so I just wanted to highlight all of that and tell you that our firefighters did a great job for 2025. We have some really big goals that we're trying to accomplish with going ALS for 2026. And I'm very optimistic and looking what we can accomplish then. So that's all I have and to report unless you have any questions.
You're not getting away that easily. A couple things. When you talked about the mutual aid, calls for service, a couple of years ago when I was talking with the department, they said that we actually go out more to outside agencies than are coming back in and helping us. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, currently, that's kind of the way it's established. I would say that that's something we need to work on, and we can kind of balance those scales. But part of that actually has to do with a little bit of the ALS, BLS situation where we're actually going in and giving care to surrounding agencies because we're closer, and they're actually kind of not coming in as often because we have different sets of how we do emergency service essentially. So I think once we get, all of us are all in the same playing field, and we're all ALS, I think we can kind of manage that a little bit better.
Cool. Second question they had is, this is more for the community, what are the metrics for responding from the time that you get the call until you're on site for both a fire and an EMS call?
So we're always shooting for that like 7-minute window. That's really like the ideal, the golden window that we're really trying to achieve. But it really just depends. It depends like what type of call it is. Fires obviously take a little bit longer because you have more gear that you have to put on before you can actually leave out of the door. But yeah, that would be probably the gold standard is also shooting for that 7-minute mark. And what I would just say that other factor of having AMR where we just don't have that in our control of when they're going to respond is something that we would like to improve.
You guys are great. A number of us were out at the Fill the Boot over the weekend on Saturday that went from 10 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock at night. I know that we got, because I spoke with Alex, got 17,000, I think $300 plus, which is just absolutely super for the Firefighters Burn Institute, which is absolutely great. I think we had 18 firefighters of 23 potential. So we had virtually everyone who wasn't on duty was working with the community. Just fabulous. Thanks.
And one thing to just echo on that is I think a lot of people don't realize that Burn Institute is not just for firefighters, but it's also for anybody that has some sort of burn injury within the community, that organization now can help those people out. And so it's really a win-win for everybody. But yeah, they do a great job.
Certainly do. Comments from my colleagues?
Comment. I think that the fact that you have such good partnerships with everybody in mutual aid and the residents and the long list is a testament to how hard you guys work, and the fact that everybody was out there on their day off for Fill the Boots. It's just that I think that the fact that you guys are always going above and beyond is I think kind of the overall perspective that everybody has, and it's appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben?
I just want to say thank you. You guys are amazing. I'm grateful that we have the good relationship that we do with you, and that our community is doing as much as they are for supporting all of your efforts.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to see the ALS progress through the year.
Yeah.
That's going to be
Me too.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. Absolutely huge. Thank you, Chief. Okay. Public comment on non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. All speakers' time limit will be limited to 3 minutes unless extended by the mayor. All comments or questions should be addressed to the mayor, and in most cases, the city council is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item not appearing on the posted agenda, but may engage in brief discussion, provide direction to city staff, or schedule items for future hearings. Public comment, do we have any comments?
We do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Stan Nader.
Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Stan Nader and I live in the 12 Bridges area. On January 15th, my wife and I attended a memorial service for police officer Kevin Ton in Galt. Kevin's parents live in Sun City, Lincoln Hills, and attend the church that we worship. We wanted to be there to support them. It was the 13th year of his passing on that very day. The city was dedicating a parkway in Kevin's name in an Elliott housing development on the east side of the city. After unveiling the Parks Way sign, we traveled to downtown Galt on the west side of the railroad tracks to the site where Kevin was murdered for a moment of silence at 11:28, the time of his passing. From there, we went to City Hall for a wreath laying at a granite monument honoring Kevin's dedication and service to the Galt community. While at the event, I had the opportunity to speak with the police chief for Galt. I asked him what the population of Galt was, and he told me it was 29,000. Then I inquired of him how many officers were in his department, and he told me 39. Wondering how he was able to have that many officers for a population that size, I asked him how he was able to accomplish that. He let me know that Galt has a 1% sales tax for park and recreation, which frees up general fund monies for public safety. Galt also has a 0.5-cent sales tax for public safety, and the city also receives 0.5-cent sales tax money from Proposition 172. My point of sharing all this is, it is high time for the city of Lincoln to put a measure before the citizens of Lincoln for a 0.5-cent sales tax in support of the police department. In the 23-25 Lincoln City Council Strategic Plan, it lists the #1 goal: prepare an action plan to proceed with a revenue measure election for a future ballot. In the 2024 document, strategic planning, that same effort was still the #1 goal. Unfortunately, in the 25-27 strategic planning document, there's no mention of the city putting forth a tax revenue in support of public safety. The city has made many promises to the men and women of who serve and protect our community. It is time for the city to deliver. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan, and thank you for going down there very much, very much. Anyone else in the audience? Okay, do we have anyone on Zoom?
I do. I have Fran Neves. Fran, you are unmuted and able to provide public comment.
Hi, everybody. I guess I have to talk to you about Oak Tree Lane again. I sent you all 2 pictures. One of us was from my dashboard, the line of cars leaving the church at 6:30 in the dark. We really need more reflectors on that road. It's very, very dark. And then when you get to 193 and you look on the other side, it's all lit up and the road's closed. There's no cars over there at all. I guess you can't do anything about that, but I just wanted to point it out. I wanted you to see it. The other thing about that right-hand turn lane You've got 12 Bridges Drive going into Sierra College. It's the same kind of thing. It's 3 ways, you know? And Sierra College doesn't have any stop signs, and that right turn lane is open. You know, well, Oak Tree Lane has more lanes there, but it's closed off. In fact, there's more barricades now than there was before. On December 9th city council meeting, Sean said there would be 2 stop signs on 193 going east and west, and that still hasn't happened. So, you know, and then I talked to Tony Frazee Friday night, and I got the impression he said that we wouldn't get those signal lights until 193 was a 4-lane highway, and that really surprised me. And I wondered just how long that was going to be before Oak Tree Lane was going to be a 4-lane, you know, right there at Oak Tree Lane. It's just, I mean, it's just not common sense. It's just not common sense. You've got to do something. It's just so dangerous. You have to do something for the safety of all your residents going up and down that road daily and in the dark, particularly. Okay, I'm asking for more reflectors. The part that's 351 Oak Tree Lane, that's the part right in front of the church from both parking lots. It's very, very dark. There's no reflectors there, and there's ditches on both sides. So that's what I'm asking you for. And again, either put the stop signs up or, you know, open the right-hand turn lane. I'd really like you all to go down there yourselves and see what it's really like. Okay, and I'm staying under my time. Thank you very much. And hi, Tori and Tom.
Thank you, Fran. I saw Vin shaking his head yes in agreement in some things, and Sean was saying no in others, so.
Yes. So I did email back Fran earlier today, but so we could talk about the reflectors. The 3-way stop is in motion. There's a mobilization component to this that, oh, my time's up.
Yeah, time's up.
That's okay. And we're good. And Vin's on them. We're pushing for this month to the extent we can make that happen. There's a lot of contractual things that probably would bore everyone that is somewhat of an impediment, but we will get it done. The opening up the, I guess it would be an eastbound right-hand turn lane on Oak Tree. I will just tell you, staff is not going to be in favor of that in advance of an always stop. That is actually a less safe improvement. I know that the perception is that it would move cars along a little faster, which is true. But if you think about it, if you're making a right-hand turn going eastbound on Highway 193 and it's a impacted time when church is out, you need to be able to look left to make that right-hand turn, especially on a busy day there. And it's going to be awfully difficult when every other car is queued up to make a left-hand turn at that same time. So it's just bad, traffic safety, although I get why people think it's a logical thing to, but so believe me, the last thing I want to do is talk about Oak Tree Lane again at City Council. We're going to move as much of heaven and earth as we can to get it, patched for the time being until the signal is completed. Yes.
Good. Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom?
No.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Would any of my colleagues like to pull any of the items on consent? Okay, staff? Okay. Do we have any public comments? Okay, any comments on the items themselves before we vote on it? Okay, good. All right. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent.
I second.
Okay, thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Oops, I'm sorry. Do we have a roll call or what do we want to do on this? Can I just say all in favor? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Moving on. Thank you. Public hearings, Mr. Manager.
This one is Christine's.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. So one of the ordinances is in front of you this evening. The first one we'll be talking about is item 9A. This is requesting that you conduct a public hearing, introduce and waive first reading of an ordinance to the Lincoln Municipal Code, establishing a new chapter 3.8 related to the regulation and operation of tobacco and vape retailers. As you may recall, back in November of last year, we conducted a workshop seeking some direction from council as to how they wanted to go, how into this regulatory environment they wanted to insert staff. And so what we have come back with is an ordinance that we believe aligns with the direction that we were given by staff. So in short, we had a long conversation about the fact that although the state of California heavily regulates the sale of tobacco, the sale of tobacco to individuals under the age of 21 does not then prohibit someone under the age of 21 from actually possessing it. So a lot of our student resource officers and just officers that are filling in those positions felt that having a regulation, a city ordinance that created a regulatory environment where it actually became citable offense for individuals under the age of 21 who were found to be in possession of these items would give them another tool in their toolbox to use to improve the health, life, safety, and welfare of our community. The other component to this deals with regulating the vape and smoke shops themselves and prohibiting the sales of kratom, which is an herbal product that has sort of an opioid effect to it, prohibiting the sales of stuffed animals, candy appearing items that tend to appeal to young people, and then also prohibiting the sale of items that are commonly known to law enforcement to be involved in illicit drug use, such as whippets, which are CO2 canisters that you typically find in a catering store when you're filling your whipped cream canister, but instead kids use them to get high, some adults as well, and then also disposable glass pipes, those types of items. So this would prohibit that. One of the concerns that was raised also was what appeared at the time to be sort of the tendency of these shops to be popping up kind of all over town. I think we gave a map in the first presentation that sort of showed where all of the tobacco and vape shops are. The vape shops are a little more visually prevalent on the street and tend to be largely in the downtown on Lincoln Boulevard area. But you have to keep in mind that, a lot of stop and go kind of places attendant to gas stations also sell tobacco products. But so these ordinances would affect their sales as well. So with that, we imposed for any new tobacco or vape retailers, 1,000-foot distance between any other tobacco or vape retailer. Any existing business would be grandfathered in as a non-conforming use. And then if they decided to expand their footprint or move or change their license type, then their tobacco license could be revoked and we could take a look at it with a conditional use permit. One of the things I wanted to bring up, because it's been sort of a topic of conversation in response to the e-bike ordinance. One of the things that's great about the way these are structured is if someone wishes to appeal their citation, they can appeal the citation by paying the fine and having a hearing. What that does, allows us as city staff and our hearing officers, who are volunteers, to have an opportunity to talk to the individual who has been cited and perhaps come up with an alternative route rather than paying the fine. So for perhaps example, in this situation, saying, okay, well, we're not going to give you $1,000 fine, young kid, but what we are going to do is require you to take some type of smoking, tobacco, vape, health type class, a 4 to 6 hour class. And when you come back to us with that certificate, we'll return the fee, the penalty, and we'll rescind the citation. So there are lots of opportunities that are afforded to our hearing officers when it comes to enforcement of these types of ordinances. And I just wanted to make that clear moving forward, that those, even in the code enforcement realm, we try to use that. Our goal is compliance. Our goal is not to collect fines and fees and penalties. Our goal is to have a healthier, brighter, safer community. So with that, if there are no questions, I would request, Mayor Pearl, that you open a public hearing and take testimony from the public.
Okay, first, do we have any questions from the council? Okay, in that case, we'll open the public hearing. Any comments from anyone in the audience?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to speak on this topic as it has struck my house. And I really appreciate the effort that's been put on by the staff and our public safety officers to come up with something for us here in the city of Lincoln to combat that. So let me share with you, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and she had a vape that I did not know that she had. And then after I found it a second time, a different one, I took her to our police station to talk to the gentleman that spoke when we had our workshop. I can't think of the officer's name at this time. That's not one of my gifts of knowing names. And so we sat down in that meeting, and I asked him to share with her what his role is and what he does. And then for us to essentially surrender it to our police department and really kind of think about that Scared Straight show when I was a kid, and to allow my daughter to feel what it's like, to know what's happening, what our city is doing to combat the tobacco sales of kids. But my daughter bought that on our school campuses, like on campus twice. And so I brought it to our school district. And so it's good to see the relationship between our city and our school district strengthening, so that those 7,500 or 8,000 kids are being represented in those families. I did hear our city mayor speak about, and I didn't read the ordinance, so bear with me, but I did hear a city attorney speak about the enforcement of having the children run some kind of education piece. And I know that that's one of our chief's desire, is to have more education for the public. So I just want to say from my house that I appreciate the effort that our city and our public safety officers are putting together to protect our children. And I did speak, I did speak about our software and being able to identify the tobacco locations and some of the things that we have. So I appreciate everyone's effort specifically in this topic, as it's helped my house. And fortunately, I think my house stomped it out before we have here in Lincoln. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the room would like to comment on this? Anyone online? Okay, questions back from my colleagues?
No, I appreciate it. It looks like, I mean, we went over it pretty good. In our workshop, it looks like everything is where we all sort of agreed and settled. And I like the educational component too. It gives us another tool, and then it also is an off-ramp if, you know.
Yeah, I probably still have, I appreciate everything about the ordinance, agree with all of it. The only kind of sticking point I still have from the workshop that I'll take another run at everyone with is the distance requirement and the number of things that are included in the distance requirement. I don't have any issue with the distance requirement between the locations. That makes a lot of sense for a number of reasons. The number of public parks, recreational facilities, and elementary schools is pretty substantial. And effectively what you're saying is, it's pretty close, I think, when we saw the map. It's effectively saying we don't want them. And I think if that's really our position, we should just come out and say we don't want them, as opposed to working our way around the same effect with a distance policy. It covers most, like all of the open space. And so I also have a, so I think we should, if that's what the council wants to do, I think it'd be cleaner just to do it that way, and as opposed to figuring out what small spaces between 1,000 feet of all these things are. I also agree with the school restriction, especially as related to junior high and high school, where we do have those problems. Not to make light of it, I have a hard time, even if you have a bad actor. It's illegal to sell to any of these people, by the way. But I have a hard time believing that a 5-year-old's going to walk into one of these shops and walk out with a bong or a whippet. I just don't see that being a likely scenario. And so it makes sense to the junior high and high school to make it a little bit harder to get it, even though it's illegal. And I think enforcing it on the school campus makes a lot of sense to be able to backstop there. I still have a problem with this 1,000-foot thing for parks and for the elementary schools. I think it's a little too much of a footprint, and if we want to do that, I think we should just be straight up about it. Otherwise, I'd like to see those restrictions taken out on the first pass. If it's a problem, I'm open to bringing it back. But I definitely agree with, this is 9.38.40. I definitely agree with the schools, junior high and middle, junior high and high school, and the other tobacco retailers. I'm less comfortable with number 1 on the park and rec. My 2 cents.
Ben?
I mean, I agree to an extent. The only biggest reason that I would want to keep it in there, not because I would want to say, hey, we don't want them around here. But it's more of a, I mean, I don't even know how to explain it, more of just being in those areas. It's more of a visual thing, I guess, on my end than anything else. I'd rather try to keep as much what I would consider wholesome or businesses that are dealing in different, yeah, again, I'm having a hard time articulating. I'm not sure exactly why, but it's more like, hey, for sure, right. It's one of those.
Yeah, I don't, I think our.
I think you're understanding what I'm trying to.
Yeah, just to be clear, like, I don't want one of these in a park or an open space. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if there's a commercial center that's already zoned to have a business like this in it, that's within 1,000 feet, it probably is okay as long as it's not within 1,000 feet of another one. So I don't want to change the, specific plans and create new opportunity for them that don't already exist. But if we have commercial and there isn't one within 1,000 feet and the market, has a demand for it, it is a legal product and it only is supposed to be sold to adults. I don't know why it doesn't, I'm not seeing the causation to prevent the people who shouldn't be having it from having it with that rule. That's really kind of, as opposed to what you're saying, which I totally agree with. I wouldn't want it near those places either.
Any comments back from staff on that? No. Right, okay.
This is what we talked about at our workshop, and so we drafted it with the direction that we had at the workshop. Councilmember Reedy brought up this concern at the time of the workshop, and we were given direction to put in the 1,000-foot rule, so we did. But if you want to change it, we can change it.
What do you think the benefit would be of having that removed? Like, what is the good out of it?
So, I mean, I think that if I remember right, we don't have the chart, but when we saw the chart, the way it is, there's open space everywhere because of the 40% requirement. It is almost the whole city is prohibited. And so you effectively, with the rules it's written, are essentially saying we don't want any more, which is fine to say that. I don't happen to agree. So I think if what you want to say is, look, we don't want a whole bunch of them in an area, which I think is partially what triggered it, because I think we do have a number in an area. So number 3, 9.3843 would eliminate that. So as one may close in that high dense area, a new one cannot open up because it falls within that. This is particularly in the downtown where there are multiple, right? So that would already be prevented. But if and it wouldn't allow multiple in 12 bridges where there are. So the retail complexes would still not be allowed to have multiple, which I think is a benefit. So I agree with keeping it. I don't think if there is a retail center that happens to be near a park or an open space, which is almost guaranteed, if there's a market for it to be there and there isn't one nearby, I'm not sure why we're preventing it, is what I'm getting at. And so effectively, we want to prevent them. I mean, it's an enforcement thing. You're going to have this map you're running around which ones are they? And my guess is, if I remember right from the map, it's very few, if any. And so to me, you're effectively with this ordinance saying we're prohibiting them without saying it. And I don't think that was our intent, and it wouldn't be my intent to limit a legal product. It's not my favorite thing either, but it is legal. It's illegal to sell it to kids. And this is, I think, designed to prevent kids from getting easy access to it, which they shouldn't have access to it anyway. But it's sort of like a secondary prevention measure for young people, but it doesn't really apply because they're not, those I can't imagine a bad actor, by the way, selling it to minors illegal now. And I can't imagine a bad actor who's willing to do it for someone 16, 17, handing a 5 or 6-year-old in an elementary school because they happen to be or not nearby. I just don't see that as a practical application of it. So I don't see it actually accomplishing what we want to do, which is spread them out in the area that they're currently dense in. I would leave that in. It's just preventing it from the rest of the city, which is fine. I'm just not sure that's what we were intending from a practical matter.
No, I agree with what you're saying. So you're looking at more from like a limiting the saturation of them, not the geographic location of them, right?
Yeah, keep the density piece in, for sure.
So then how would we even do that? I mean, it would be like per square mile, or, I mean, that we have to redraft sort of the whole.
Well, I think what you could say, for example, is you say, look, we could get rid of one, which is public park and recreation. And in the school, we could say junior high and high school and leave the other tobacco and change the distance to 2,000, right? So you can say, look, they can't be within that close of proximity. That's the most important thing, is the density of them, not necessarily what they're close to. So that could be a way of saying, okay, that will make the density even less than the current ordinance is. But it won't require all this, well, is it close to an open space or park or whatever, as opposed to how close is it to another one?
Christine, I'm sorry, did you want to make a comment?
No, I was just going to say that if that is a revision you wish to make, we could simply revise
That's just-
938,040 to 2,000 feet instead of 1,000 feet. Delete A1 and revise A2 to delete. It looks like elementary school is the one that you had
Right.
thoughts on.
John, if we did that, would that cover your concerns?
That'd be perfect. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Say again?
I don't think we have to.
You- We've had the public hearing, but there will be a second read of the ordinance
Okay.
in the next week.
Okay. Okay, good. So we're not taking, okay, so now we are voting on on amending the proposed ordinance for the second reading. Okay.
I'm still noodling on this. I don't know. I just, if I'm being totally honest, I kind of look at this a little bit similarly, but not, because it's completely different to when we were having our drive-through discussion and figuring out, what do we want the downtown to look like? And we want all these drive-throughs, and what you're suggesting would kind of attack that as well. If I'm being honest, yeah, I'm weighing, this is a legal retail, free market, and I believe in all of that. But then also, I just don't really love the idea of a bunch of tobacco shops everywhere when they can be sold already in grocery stores and gas stations and everywhere else. So I don't really love the idea of just those popping up everywhere. It feels like this would maybe give us a little bit more ability to limit it on top of what you're saying. And I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of it. I just feel like, especially around, I think what Ben was trying to say, Councilmember Brown was trying to say is, near all of these recreational activities, it just doesn't feel like we're promoting a healthy community when we've got a potential vape shop right next door to a soccer complex, or, and so is it an appropriate location? We could just not care and say, do it. It's legal and it's zoned, or we could do this, and it allows us to have like a little bit more control over density and lifestyle and healthy community that I want. Not limiting the ability to purchase these things. Just want our community to have a bunch of
How many vape shops do we have now? This, was it 7?
I think exclusively vape shops, I think it's 5, if I recall correctly. But when it came to vape and tobacco retailers, I think the number was 23.
And it's not legal. So this whole thing is just really interesting to me. It's not legal to sell to minors, but I know firsthand from having my own and extensions of them without incriminating anybody or,
Mhm.
or infringing on any confidences. I have it on good authority that a very high percentage of minors in middle school, higher than I could ever imagine at this generation, are vaping and using nicotine products and also, other controlled substances. So while it's not legal, they're not supposed to be doing this. They're not supposed to be able to buy it. Why are all of these children able to get a hold of them and use them on a regular basis? That's concerning to me as a mom, and I, we're getting into other things, but that's also sort of my.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure the youngsters are going to find a way to get it no matter what you do.
True.
I mean, it's always going to be there. So seems like we have either someone will make a motion to amend it as the city attorney suggested, and if that is seconded, we can vote on that. Otherwise, we'll bring it back as original.
So one quick thing, I'm trying to do this distances with my fingers on the map here. So interestingly, I think the one, do we, how does this apply with so in alcohol, they have to have a CUP, for example, right? This doesn't require that?
No, so this would be a restriction that gets tagged when they apply for their business license and their tobacco retailer license.
Okay. So what I'm looking at is that the 1,000 feet may not create the downtown that you want anyway. That's what I'm with all of this. So it actually doesn't solve that problem. But is there another mechanism to address, for example, as opposed to a blanket 1,000 feet or some feet against a park, is there a way without creating a lot of extra cost or bureaucracy? In Whitney's example of there happens to be a commercial center backed up to a soccer complex and we're like, no, as opposed to blanketing it for all of them? Is there a mechanism for that?
That would be far more difficult because if it's a by right use and they're not within the restrictions that we've placed, we don't really have a means or mechanism to deny their tobacco license.
Okay, so it is a by right use? Or we've declared it once, so it is?
If it's in a commercial, this is creating a use. This is
Right.
creating a restriction on that use.
Okay.
And so in order to the ABC, tobacco and firearms, and they will then know, and it will come back as they go through the process of getting their business license. We will then get an opportunity to check and be able to say, oh, you're within 1,000 feet of one of these uses, don't issue it. Right now, if it's in a commercial district, that check doesn't happen.
Okay. Is there a mechanism to reverse it where, let's say you had the policy and someone wanted to put it and happened to be within 1,000 feet of something, but we're like, actually, that's an okay place for it to be, to give them an exemption? Like in the reverse?
They could always, I suppose, apply for an exemption and it could come to the city council for you to make a decision. But at that point, then you're not applying the ordinance.
Right, then you're creating a hole. Yep, okay.
I mean,
I don't think that's
I'm
good
just trying-
practice.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
mechanism would be like something akin to a variance. But variances are supposed to be because there's some sort of unique quality about the property that doesn't allow them to, realize its full potential. And I think that'd be kind of a tough case to make.
Yeah, I share all of Whitney's, sentiments about the kinds of businesses. To me, it was just legal, and I'm not entirely sure that the ordinance as written is going to have the intended impact on the downtown. I think you need a 2,000 foot to do the distance in the downtown that we want, and that for sure will eliminate the entire city for the rest of it. So I think it's a bit of a trade-off, just eyeballing the,
Maybe it'd be better to do 2,000 and then take out one.
I would be, yeah, I think if we could, agree to take out the number 1 and make it 2,000, that would impact the downtown in the way I think that's intended. And be less restrictive in some of the other, some of the other areas. It'd still cover big swaths of the city, but the parks would be less, easier to enforce. Because
Let me just throw something out to my
Yes.
colleagues. Do you think, because we're really conflicted on this, that we just kick it back for another session? Because I'm hearing lots of different things going on, and it doesn't, may take just a little bit more reflection among us, and then bring it back the next time so we have a little bit more clarity.
I think that would be helpful from the conversation that I'm hearing now. And I also know that Councilmember Andrada, this was
Yes.
a passion project of hers. And so unfortunately, she can't be here tonight, but I'm sure she would have input.
I move to kick it so that we can have Holly.
How do we officially kick it? We just table it?
Well, we can,
Don't have.
yeah,
a
it's a
motion
public
on-
hearing. We can continue the public hearing to a date certain to the next council meeting. I'm not sure, is Holly going to be here for that one?
We probably want to, I would continue it just to make sure I can't remember the exact details of her schedule, but I would kick it to the first meeting in March.
Okay.
I mean, there's no real urgency. I don't think we have
No,
anything on the
Doesn't seem to be an
books.
urgency on this.
No, I mean, because one thing we could talk about this as we lead to the next one, but one other kind of unintended thing that you should just kind of consider is that you're viewing this in terms of a smoke shop that's selling that kind of stuff. But to be clear, it's not only written that way. It's written such that other retailers, gas stations, et cetera, that also sell tobacco products could be limited by those. And so I think it's probably worth having some thought about, because I guess the question, honestly, for an elected official is, do you care if that same kind of product is sold at a 7-Eleven v. Bob's Smoke Shop, right? Like, does the risk still exist in both places? And maybe the answer is yes. But you may end up in a situation where in one of your commercial projects where sometimes a gas station or convenience store can be an important kind of subtenant, they're not going to be able to, they won't site there if they can't sell the wares that they're used to selling other places. I can just tell you that.
And it may be more that you're concerned regarding the possession under the age of 21 issue, and then also the restriction on selling kratom and whippets and those kind of things. And maybe the distance requirement doesn't give you the same kind of heartburn that maybe it did in the past when we had that first conversation. So we will plan to bring it back for the first meeting in March.
Okay, perfect. Very good. Oh, good. Okay, perfect. Okay, good. Okay, moving on to item 10 Bravo.
Okay, so I'm back on stage. The next item that is coming before you is another ordinance change. This one is hopefully a little less controversial. This is amending section 10.40.140 to our municipal code that regards parking on private property. We have, for whatever reason in Lincoln, our municipal code is not consistent with a lot of our cities all over the state of California, which specifically prohibit parking a vehicle in the front or side yard if it's not on an impermeable surface. So parking on your lawn, parking in a dirt part of your property in a residential zone. It creates a couple of problems. The first and foremost is this is probably one of code enforcement's #1 complaints. People complain about their neighbors parking in their front yard. It's visual blight. It's unattractive. It tends to kind of have that broken window theory where if you're parking junker cars in your front lawn, you're probably not going to be taking great care of your yard. Trash is piling up, those types of issues. But Actually, second, and also very importantly, is the impact it has on our utility department. So we've had several instances where our utility guys go out, and gals, go out and they need to do a meter read or they need to access the water box for some reason. And either the car is parked over the top of it because those boxes tend to be, particularly in the downtown area, in the sort of grassy part of the yard. So the car is either parked on top of it so they can't access it at all, or the car has driven over it so many times, those lids aren't rated for vehicle weight, and so they break, and then they damage the equipment that's down inside of that meter box. So for that reason, rather than getting into a back and forth with our residents about whether this ordinance as crafted actually prohibits people from parking on their lawns, we thought it would be kind of one of those smart things to come forward to the city council and say, we have identified this as a problem. This is an easy solution and fix. And we put it to you that it will make code enforcement and utilities lives a lot easier going forward. So with that, I would open it up to questions from council, but ask that you open a public hearing, take testimony, and then potentially introduce and waive first reading of the ordinance as presented.
Okay. We'll do all that. Going forward. Okay. Questions from the council?
I just had one quick. Is paved means it has to be concrete or asphalt, or do pavers work, or like, does that, like
Any impervious?
yeah.
Right.
'Cause you said impervious, but the actual code says paved. That's why I was asking.
I don't think the proper one got uploaded now that I look at it, because I changed it from paved to impermeable surface. So, good catch.
Okay.
It is an impermeable surface. And so, I mean, pavers would work if it had a hard, grout or some type of material, but it's supposed to be so that not only, so when a car leaks oil or whatever happens, it's not going into our groundwater.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Good. Any other comments from my colleagues? All right. Do we have any cards?
We do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jason Daggett.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. You guys know me in ordinances. Time to make some friends again. Again, once again, this again seems like a virtue signal for regulation. We get some complaints, so we got to seem like we're doing something. This one, though, seems a bit more egregious because I know other cities do it. I'll get to that in a minute there, but it's flirting with people's property rights. There's two different explanations in this documentation about complaints or visual blight, and others about the utilities being unreachable. Neither one of those passed the sniff test for me. It's about visual blights. That's a subjective definition. People's complaints do not justify government action. Where's the slippery slope end? Are we going to mandate what color somebody can paint their house, how many antennas can be on the roof, whether or not they can have a blue or gray tarp on the roof if they have a leak, if they can have a tarp at all? All of those are visual blights. I didn't know the city was looking to get into the HOA business. If it's about utilities, I'm willing to bet that there's an ordinance in place already about not blocking utility access. Enforce that one. And if it's not on the books, put it on the books. The justification of other cities' ordinances, I mean, it feels like trolling at this point. This is an irrelevant justification. Countless times we've heard this council say, we don't want to be like other cities, but we keep referencing other cities as reasons to implement regulations. So what we want is to be like other cities when it's convenient for the city to do things that they deem as important. I would encourage you to heed the advice my dad gave me as a child. If they all jumped off the damn cliff, would you? If I'm reading this ordinance correctly, I believe I am. So if I park my car on my lawn, that's a problem. If I concrete my entire front yard or use pavers and connect it to the driveway and park the car in the exact same spot, that's somehow less of a visual blight and does not impede the utilities any longer. You know what I think a visual blight is, especially in my area, is the condition of the roads, the condition of the sidewalks or lack of sidewalks altogether, lack of adequate street lighting. The city should spend more time and money focusing on its own visual blights first. As I've said in this chamber on a couple times now, the California HUD has done studies that show residents are less likely to upkeep their own homes when the city does not upkeep the area those homes are in. For example, there's a house on my street that has a notice of condemnation, and it's been there the entire time I've lived here. I've been here 6 years. It's been the entire time I've been there. Nothing has changed. So if property value is a responsibility of government to protect, then couldn't we be due just compensation under the taking clause for the impacts that these above items have on our property value? We have overgrown trees all over the city and an ordinance in place that's enforceable, and we don't enforce it even to trim them away from power lines, sidewalks, or stop signs, which all affect public safety. If this ordinance passes, and let's be honest, it probably will, because in the 2 years I've been coming here, not one vote has ever been a majority no. I would encourage any citizen who gets a warning or fine that it should simply respond, I don't have the money to rectify that right now. It seems to be a good enough excuse for the city to not have to clean up any of their visual blights, regardless of how many complaints they receive. And as a last note, if your immediate response is, our code enforcement team is amazing, I don't know them, I'm sure they are, I'll take your word for it. But if that's what you're feeling like you should say, save it, you clearly missed the point.
Thank you, Jason. Madam Clerk, any other comments, any other cards at this point?
No other cards.
Anyone else would like to give testimony on this? In the room? Anyone on Zoom?
No one through Zoom.
Okay, very good. Bring it back to my colleagues. Comments?
Thinking, and I hate to put you on the spot, Sean, but I remember you talking about, and I've heard other people say this before, not to discredit what you were saying at all, but it just to offer a different perspective on how we get to having something to this level on council where the majority agree, because of the work that we're doing behind the scenes, the work that you and staff are doing behind the scenes.
If the intention or if what the public wants is more majority no votes, then I'm not really doing a very good job. Our job is to try to bring things that we think have value. And, I will disagree with Mr. Daggett on this. I've had plenty of no votes in front of the city council over my time here. And sometimes there are directions to go a different direction. Sometimes there are other things. We're not seeking a yes on things. Whether you choose to pass an ordinance or not is really of no consequence to us. We are reacting to either community needs or council direction or needs from our enforcement community. So, but the reason why the city council exists is that it's a community decision and they elect a group of people to make that decision one way or the other. But what I would say about this is you could extrapolate out the comment about personal property rights much further than just parking on your front lawn. How about, having blow up animals on the top of somebody's home, like at a car dealership? Well, I don't think anybody's gonna be super stoked about that. It's, each community should have the opportunity to make standards by which they want to live in, within reason. And what I can tell you is that to allow this sort of unfettered throughout the community without at least some standards, you do run into problems down the road in terms of environmental issues, in terms of urban blight, and all of these things are additive. It's not simply just one thing; it's multiple things that add to one another, and it's a fairly standard. Besides the fact that, frankly, it's simply not safe. It's not safe for folks to be parking, parallel along their lawn. I think if you wanted to get more granular about it, there's a difference to me between parking on the side of a driveway that may not be improved. And there's a whole nother thing about, and we have this, people pulling parallel across their entire front lawn. And so the big question for the council is it a problem enough in order for us to have the tools to address it? And if it isn't, then it isn't. But, Christine wrote it, and I feel like I've talked too much now. Hopefully I didn't step on your feet.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just thinking, why do we have driveways if, we're going to park on the lawn? I mean, that's what they're designed to do. And then you talk about public safety and, access to the house or the home. If there's an emergency, there's a whole slew of reasons I think that we have homes designed the way that they are. And I think, then there's the environmental aspect, the code enforcement aspect. So I don't think it's just an aesthetic issue. But, there's other areas that you can live. If you want to throw everything out on the lawn and park in front of your door, you can live in the country. And, but as far as I think, property values. I don't know anyone that wants to have a car parked right in front of their lawn next door, and on top of the fact that it's all the other issues that it causes that are getting in our way and restricting your ability and public safety's ability to do their job efficiently. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
I was gonna, I'm receptive to the property rights argument. The other thing I'd say is you mentioned all the things that you can't do in your home, and I live in an HOA where all the things you mentioned I cannot do. To me, I think you could be on a slippery slope. This doesn't feel like a slippery slope to me. This feels like if you need additional parking, there's a way for you to do it. It's not preventing you from doing it. It's just saying you have to do it in a certain way, and I feel like that's a reasonable compromise against your personal property rights, because I'm very receptive to that. And if we had our ordinance that was talking about some of the other things you mentioned, I would have a different opinion. But I concur on the safety, and there is a path to do it if you need it in your home, so.
Mr. Brown.
So I look at it, I ask myself two questions. Anytime I look at any ordinance that we're going to create, and what I ask myself is, are we looking to protect the rights and property of the individual? And that can be looked at from any aspect. One person wants the right to be able to park their vehicle on their lawn. But then how does that impact the property of the neighbor next to you? And when you look at it from that perspective, everyone will maybe interpret that a little bit differently. But in the end, we're here as a government to help the community to live at peace and to have a good community. And if this is something that's causing the issue, whether there's it goes against either personal rights or your individual property, then it's our job to clarify that and fix that. And so another question that I have about the paving your whole front lawn and making it all concrete, how would, I mean, that obviously would take a lot of money to do, but in the end, would they be in compliance with this ordinance at that point if they decided to do that?
It would be a very site-specific, because there are HOAs that have different requirements in their CCNRs about how much of their front yard can be paved versus not paved, and so
What about an un-HOA?
Yeah, I suspect this is
Portion
not
of
an
town.
HOA issue that
No.
Ben's talking about.
This is, the difficulty is there are rules and standards about driveway access and curb ramp access and all of that if you were to take that approach.
Permit, right?
Okay, that makes more sense. To do the concrete, you need a permit.
You'd need an encroachment permit, you'd need a permit to do you can't just drive over an existing curb. You'd have to carve out an apron and go through all that process.
Well, that makes more sense to me then. So it's not just about paving your whole front lawn just because you can, because you still have to have the permits to get that done. And then taking a look at it, they wouldn't be able to do that anyways because of the permit. It'd be against different ordinances is what I'm hearing. Very good. That's good enough for me.
Thank you. Yeah, I lived in 5 acres in the county where you can do anything you want. Now I live in Sun City where you can't do anything. But there are rules for that. And I think as someone said, if you wanted to live in that type of environment, move out to the county. But to me, this is a community standard type of application. I think to me, it has merit to do it and would help to sustain the look and appeal of the communities that everyone lives in. So, any other comments from my colleagues? In that case, you can make a motion. Okay, do I have a second?
Let me just formally close the public hearing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Closed. Okay,
Okay, I motion to approve.
thank you. Do we have a second?
I'm going to second with the text edit.
With a, yes.
All right.
Okay, good. Okay. All right. Any, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Done. All right, that did take less time. All right, on to general business. Mr. Manager.
Thank you very much. I don't want to jump you there, Mayor. Okay, so I'm going to give a little history on this, and then we'll get to the lease with the chamber. But there's a bit of history I think is relevant because it's going to lead to decisions your council's going to have to make at some point down the road a little. So there, if you're not familiar, if you walk down F Street towards Los Gallos, on your right-hand side, you will see an old home just after you pass Old City Hall that leads into the plaza. And that is and has been since at least 2008, and I think actually prior to that for a short period of time, the home of the Lincoln Area Chamber of Commerce and their office space. In April of 2008, the Lincoln Redevelopment Agency, which still exists, it just no longer has any money, purchased the property, which is 540 F Street, which is as far as I understand, the affectionately called the old Bierman's home, which I believe was where the Bierman family lived at one time. And at the time, the property was purchased for a future Bierman Plaza expansion project, which the redevelopment agency was going to fund. There was going to be a little time period in between when the funds were generated to actually pull off the project. So in the meantime, the city council approved the Chamber of Commerce to inhabit that building and use that as their office. And really, they've stayed there since. And it's actually, I think Tom would say, who's here tonight, that until relatively recently, it's served a good purpose for them. It's helped them have a physical location. You know, you really do need, for a nonprofit of their scale and size, you really do need a professional office space to sort of level up. And they've also liked it because it's right there in the plaza, and many of their events are plaza adjacent. But if you've ever gone in there recently, they are now kind of at a place where I think they're looking for a more professional workspace with a little bit more space as their organization grows and as Lincoln grows. So the city, so post purchasing this building, of course, the city and the country descended into the Great Recession. 2.5 years later, Jerry Brown succeeded in his goal of eliminating redevelopment agencies in California. And so not only was there no money to do the project, but we were in the middle of a recession. And so the project was shelved for the time being. We've restarted that in recent years, and we've started to put away a little money every budget cycle to save for some plaza expansion improvements. There's a variety of improvements I can go through if you'd like, but some of it may include either repurposing or removal of that building. It's unclear at this stage which of those it will be. But what's clear is that sooner or later, the chamber was not going to have a home there. So concurrently, we had been working on some cool projects on the second floor of Old City Hall, which has been vacant on both tenant spaces for about a year and a half now. And so we went and showed it to Tom, and the east side office space, which is the one that faces F Street and is a larger office, he felt met their needs. It's got a couple of private office areas and then a very large kind of communal work area and plenty of room for meetings and conference areas. And then they also would have access to a really nice conference room that overlooks the plaza for their executive board meetings. So we just got to work on figuring out whether that would work for them and for us. So what's before you this evening is a lease. And the city's lease back in 2008 with the chamber, which mostly still exists today, was a whopping $1 a year per lease, plus standard insurance and utilities. And so being the shrewd negotiator that I am, I've jammed Tom up to 100% increase at $2 per year. And, so some members of the public have asked, and I think it's a reasonable question about, whether or not it's standard to have these low or no cost leases with nonprofits. And the answer is sort of depending on where you are. Many places I've worked used no longer needed public property to house important nonprofits because in their world, it's very difficult to have an organization that's self-funded, and it's even more difficult when you have a lot of overhead. The thing that's a little bit unique about Lincoln's Chamber of Commerce, as Tom says, is that they do so many things that are adjacent to or collaborative with us that they've become sort of this informal arm of the city of Lincoln in a good way, whether that be the many events that they run or some of the business support, the collaboration on projects. They're in the middle of helping with a grant-funded project at the moment on the downtown. The list goes on. And so much like the contract for services with the chamber, I see this as similar in the sense that it's an investment in the chamber who is providing returns that we can actually see and value on a yearly basis. We, just so you know, that we didn't just go out and offer it for free to the world. We did tour a couple of private businesses and a couple of governmental entities that are not in Lincoln, took a really close look at that office space for what we would call market rent, and there just wasn't a lot of interest in it. And so our suggestion is to consider the lease that you have before you. It has a couple of provisions I'll run through real quickly. It's a term of a 5-year, 5 years starting on or about March 1st, and a renewal option upon mutual agreement by both parties. There's termination clauses with the 3 months notice by either party, so that if the chamber decides it doesn't work for them or vice versa, no harm, no foul, and it gives plenty of time to sort that out. Talked about rent. There is some positive financial impact actually to the city's general fund here, because what you have to imagine, that's what's been going on in that building for a number of years now, is we've had one nonprofit, the Historical Society, on the first floor and mostly vacancy everywhere else. But we're still pretty much paying a normal utility amount in that building because it still has to be heated and cooled and, pretty much the same whether or not there are people in it. So the good news is the chamber will pay their proportionate share now that they're in the building, which will lower our operational cost quite a bit. So it's not completely for free. We also think that it kind of gives us the opportunity to help in one small way to allow the chamber to mature into whatever the next phase of their growth is as an organization, because as we're going to discuss on the next item, having a professional space really changes the nature of your organization. If you're not working in a professional space, it tends to trickle down to the actual work as well. And then finally, what happens with the old building? Well, I don't know. For the time being, what I've told the DLA, who is being removed from the Carnegie, is that they could use that old home as a meeting place. They have sort of intermittent meetings that they have. And we probably would allow other nonprofits that needed a meeting space to use it. And then eventually, this coming budget, we like to bring a real project at that plaza to you, which may include some sort of alteration or removal of that building, depending on what you decide. But what's clear now is that the chamber's ready to move on to the next step, and we are ready to help them do that. So be happy to answer your questions. And I know Tom's and company are here. You want to come up, Tom?
Lori has a barn full of nice furniture for. No, thank you, Sean. And like we said at our awards banquet Friday night, we really enjoy the partnership, the friendship, the partnership, everything we do with the city. As the city's growing, so are the events, as you know. This year for the 4th of July, we're a little nervous because being the 250th anniversary of our country. Last year's parade was an hour and a half long on 4th of July. So we're going to have to kind of limit that, but we already have, we had an email today requesting application for the 4th of July parade. So I said, we're not quite there yet, but no, we appreciate the city's, again, working with us. And as we do grow, having a bigger space where we can hold more meetings there instead of always borrowing the city's downstairs conference room. We want to try and evolve and kind of be a little more self-contained. So again, just thank you and look forward to probably dragging one of my big barbecues over there and move one weekend. So free food and, be like Tom Sawyer, we'll come paint our new office and we'll feed you. But no, any other questions or anything I can answer, I'm more than happy to do that. But again, it's just, we're looking forward into moving into a bigger space. And we have kind of outgrown that little office. And, I think we have 2 storage units right now on top of the office. So yeah, we're definitely in need of a little bigger space. So with your help, it's going to really accommodate us. So thank you.
Questions for my colleagues? Who's going to be responsible for the TIs that are going in there?
Well,
Yeah, I don't think that there's any significant TIs that they're going to do. You're just bringing in counter space and some furniture, right?
Yeah, we just some new furniture. We're talking about replacing a carpet, but I don't really think it needs it. I don't know if we're just going to.
Yeah, we may do some things that we're going to do anyway in advance of them coming, but if they wanted to do internal TI or remodels, there's some provisions in the lease that just require our concurrence.
Yeah, we're not going to be, we're remodeling. So, we have all our IT guys ready. We're going to move all the copiers and all that stuff. So yeah, we're just pretty much just going to take our existing, and if the DLA or whoever moves into that building, we probably will leave a few desks in there just because I don't think we're going to need them all upstairs, but if not, we move them. But I think that anyone else moving in there would probably want some of that anyway. So,
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank
All right. No other comments from my colleagues. Anyone would like to make a comment from the audience tonight? Okay, no one? Anyone on Zoom? All right, bring it back. Any further comments?
I'll move to adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute.
Release.
The lease.
Second.
Or execute who? Okay. Do we have a second? John, okay. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Very good. Done. Perfect. All right. Good. Whipped through that. Mr. Scully, you're on for 10 Bravo.
Do it up here. Walk around with this one a little. Okay, I'll figure this out in a minute. Okay, so I talked about this a little bit during my updates at the end of last meeting, but just to get everybody on the same page about the history here. So the city of Lincoln completed their city hall in 2008, and at that time, the chamber's portion of this project here was not completed due to a variety of reasons, primarily budgetary constraints. In the years since, a number of city councils have explored and engaged design professionals in an effort to kind of relocate the chambers out of this room as our community has continued to grow. And fun fact that I shared with Lincoln Serves earlier today, we are now an entitlement jurisdiction under federal regulations. And what does that mean? Well, once you reach over a certain population threshold, you are viewed a little differently by the feds. And so what does that mean? Well, interestingly, in America, if you take all the incorporated jurisdictions, all of the cities, townships that are incorporated, governed, home rule kind of places, 96% of them are below that threshold. So Lincoln has now reached a population where we are of a size that's only 4% and greater in America. And even more interesting, 75% of all of those jurisdictions are under 7,500 people in population. So why does that matter? Well, it matters because, of course, the public process today, at least, depends on public engagement and the ability to have the community access their leaders and raise concerns and support things and oppose things. It doesn't really work unless you have that. And part of that is the physical space in which you're doing it. I've worked in all kinds of council chambers, Spartan ones that you just put up, folding tables in a community center, up to, community city council chambers that lots of money was spent on. And so a couple of years ago, the city council put on our strategic plan Let's get started again on the true remodel that was once conceived for the council chambers. So we budgeted some money and engaged an architect to begin that work. And what it originally was conceived as, there's a couple alternatives, but the primary one was moving this city council chambers down to the first floor where Christine and my offices are located, and relocating those departments and staff all the way up to this floor and some office space that's over here. And as we got deeper and deeper into the project, we were finally figured out a couple of our alternatives, and we're prepared to bring those to you for funding. And the city has set aside from new development and some other funds, small amounts of money every year in anticipation of this remodel project. We had thought it was going to be in the $2.3 to $2.8 million range. It's very, very expensive to remodel, especially public buildings. This is the problem when a project languishes for so long, as construction costs continue to increase every year. And so the very rough estimate at that time was a roughly $7 million project. So when that information came across my desk, we all went, time out, no more money spending on design for the moment. Might as well be 70 million for all of that, you know. So, but then we got to thinking, you know, if we can't pull off that project right now, what could we do to at least add a little capacity to this space and make it a bit more professional, at least give it a bit of a facelift? And so, super grateful to Scott Boynton and Roland and Jen Brown, all of whom got together with me, and we walked through this room and we thought of a number of different orientations that might work. Trying to take advantage of the windows that we're not currently using, trying to make sure that our technology is a bit higher of a levels as we are streaming more than we ever have, cleaning up some audio issues, adding seating, providing, we hope, a better experience for the community and the city council in this room. So let me step you through that quickly. Let me make sure I pull this up. Uh-oh. I might need help.
Speaking of technology,
Oh, is it? I wasn't listening. Oh, that's why. Sorry about that. Thank you very much. Okay, in one moment, you'll see that on the big screen. And I'll try to walk you through it. So the quick sales pitch is, okay, quick sales pitch is, this is the north wall, this is the south wall. North wall is where the dais exists. In this schematic, the dais is moved to this back wall. What you see here is you see a ramp, and it's going to be, I think, about a 6-inch raised platform, which we want the city council to have the ability to see all the way back. The entirety of the community is fairly standard most places. To the left of that is a smaller staff seating area. When I first started here, we had very limited staff seating on this side, and we were kind of a skeleton of an organization. And so as we brought on a bunch of the folks that you see here today, I thought it was really important that we had them front and center to be able to respond to things. And we were changing the makeup of how council meetings ran. Now that that's kind of become practice, what you see in most other jurisdictions is that if you have an item, for example, if Matt has an item for city council this evening, they pick a chair in the audience and they get up to the podium and give their presentation. Or if there's a question, they come up and address the council. And I like that scenario better because it's very important in terms of decorum that when the public is giving comment, it's to the city council. When staff are giving comment, it's to the city council. And so we think that the dimensions of the room, as they've been kind of laid out here, lend themselves to that. Couple more details. We think we get about 16 more seats for the public out of this orientation. This behind this TV and this fake wall here is a galley kitchen that hasn't been used in a long time. That goes away. A door by where our treasurer is sitting right there will be punched through. That'll be the primary public entrance. It gives an exit, emergency exit for them on the stairwell as well. This door remains. That storage closet sitting over by Darla those doors will go away. It'll open into the hallway instead of inwards here. They're in the let me see if I can use this thing. In the corner. Oh, boom, I figured it out. This little corner here is probably a half or 3/4 wall where we're gonna put tech and potentially somebody to monitor. We have a mission control right outside of here that monitors all of the streaming, but we want to make sure we have a little section that's put aside for IT because they're doing a lot of work in the background during meetings. What else am I forgetting? Oh, new podium. So this goes away. We'll be bringing in something that's a little bit more current. And then the dais for the city council, you'll see is kind of a half circle, which is what you see in most jurisdictions now. It's a little less cubic than the one you have. Some feedback I've received just in the last couple days is there's a lot of discussion internally about whether we should have a 7-person or a 5-person dais. And initially my thought was that I felt like a 7-person dais might spread you out so far that it felt awkward. But it was actually brought up to me just today by Councilmember Reedy that what we also don't want is the dais to be so small that when you're up on the platform here, that there's all this negative space on either side that's not being used. So, like a postage stamp on a really big canvas doesn't make sense. So we're going to play around with that and see if we can find a dais that we could purchase that is slightly larger so that for Planning Commission, which has 7 members, there'll be adequate space for them, but not so large that, you're having to yell down to the other end to speak to Councilmember Brown. And then finally, we haven't worked out the details of this. I don't think we need to go into it tonight unless you'd like, but somewhere either in this area here or potentially this area here, we will have our police chief and potentially fire chief in one of those 2 locations because Chief Alves has been nice enough during his tenure here to provide most of our on-site security, and he'd like to be able to see the room versus being pigeonholed way back here. And we don't want his back to the wall either. So so as you could tell, there's a few other little details. Carpets, these are probably original. We'll be ripping those up, putting in new carpet, probably a darker hue to when I spill coffee, you won't know right away. TVs are going to come off the ground, so no more ground-mounted TVs or TVs on desks. Are going to be hung from the ceiling. The idea would be that we have a couple so that the public can just simply look up and see what they want to see without having to move their heads. The dais itself will have monitors embedded so that we don't need this any longer. You'll be able to simply just watch along and still maintain eye contact with whoever is presenting. Wiring like that and that all gets put under the carpet. We'll be trenching under and hiding all of those wires. We will obviously be losing this lovely blue masking tape here. And it provides in our opinion, provides greater ADA access because we're now kind of setting up the room. If you look at how this room has matured over the years, it's kind of been hodgepodge. And so we hope that this is going to create an environment where people walk in, ideally the windows are open, there's lively debate about whatever the issue of the day is. And it feels like a more professional environment for the community and the council. Couple more things. How is it funded? So what was really important to me was trying to avoid any sort of general fund impact here. And fortunately, there are 2 little methods that we came up with. There is a revenue source that's very old at this point, and we don't receive a whole lot of money for it anymore, but it's called PEG funds, stands for Public Educational and Governmental Funds. And essentially, it's a very small little fee that is remitted by cable providers to cities, specifically and expressly for public engagement at city council meetings, closed circuit television systems, local access, these days it's expanded to be, you know, Zoom and YouTube. And those dollars can only be spent on technology as supporting city council and planning commission and things like that. So there quite literally is no other purpose that we would spend the money for it. 2/3 of the budget, if we're budgeting around $300,000 for this, are technology related costs. The actual remodel is probably going to be a little less than $100,000. The cameras, the streaming devices, the control center that's in that room, mics, they're all very expensive pieces of equipment. And our perspective, unless you say otherwise, was to make sure that we're getting as good as technology as we can reasonably afford, because things seem to only get more expensive, and our usage online has increased and seems to continue to increase year to year. And so we want to make sure that it's clear, the audio's good, that we're able to make sure that the experience here in room is really good as it is at home. And then the 1/3 of the funding, so roughly $120,000 of the budget come from the PEG account. And then when we froze design on the large chamber build, the $7 million one, it left a couple $100,000 in excess budget that would have taken us through the planning and bidding stage, which now obviously is going to be iced for the time being. And so we would recommend you appropriate those dollars to this project. I think at some point we'll have to have a follow-up conversation about what the long-term plan is for council chambers, because while getting 16 additional seats is great and having this be a more lively and professional environment is great, the community continues to grow. You know, we've seen it before. We have to use overflow rooms. The amount of coordination for the first meeting we had of this year, just amongst staff, was significant. I mean, we had to have probably a dozen people helping to manage, you know, making sure everybody had their opportunity to give public comment. So sooner or later, the council's going to have to tackle the issue of what do we do about a chambers. We have some ideas about that that I don't need to go into tonight, but there are options here on the 3rd floor for expansion of this room that way. And then there's the 1st floor option, and then there's offsite options as well. So that will be a big lift because it's an expensive project. But in the meantime, we think this gets you by for the next, 5 to 7 years, depending on growth patterns. And the other thing I'd say is, as you look at this schematic, it's not drawn to scale. This was just to give you a visual idea of what we've been thinking. And all of this is changeable. We wanted it to still be a flexible space so that, all kinds of different meetings can take place up here. And so we want chairs to be movable and tables to be movable, and there generally to be flexibility in the space so that it just isn't only for city council meetings, because it certainly gets used for other things too. I don't think I actually need to go walk anywhere. You guys can kind of tell what I'm talking about. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those, and I'm sure we'll have comments.
A couple of questions. One, when I came here in 2008, we were meeting in the McBean, and I went, really? I mean, that was because I've presented at Beverly Hills, and it's a little bit different on scale. One question that I had on this, and isn't this chamber also used by the school district?
Yes, sir.
And so are there any conversations going on between us and them?
Not related to cost sharing, but an interesting tidbit. We will be having those conversations. My suggestion to you would be that regardless of that, I think it's important for the city alone. But interestingly, the school district has used the space, but they use their own tech, their own audio. They bring all that stuff in every meeting. They do not use any of our equipment. And but as the city attorney has reminded me a couple of times, there are some deadlines coming for all public agencies in terms of online streaming, et cetera, that they will also need to comply with. And so to the extent that they're interested in a business arrangement where we help, provide those opportunities for them, we're willing. Usually the way it works in this building is if we do some sort of improvement that's useful to everybody that works here, they pay 1/4 of the cost. And so that'll be the proposal.
Perfect. My colleagues, go.
So you and I were talking about a phase two or expansion. If we decided to move forward with this project, there was an option to abandon the first floor idea concept that was originally proposed that was in the millions of dollars more. Uh, Would this then be phase one and it could go into phase two to just make this space work so we wouldn't have to abandon this space and go somewhere else to make it bigger for the future?
Yes, so let's call this phase one for the time being. Phase two would be this wall gets blown out, and behind this, and then members of the public, if you ever want to see it, it's not very exciting, but on the other side of this space is a very large, probably larger than this space, or at least exactly the same size, storage room, completely unfinished, concrete floors, no false ceiling. You can see all the HVAC equipment above you, and we literally just use it to store all kinds of things, files, paperwork, equipment. So it's usable space, and you could essentially double your council chambers by moving that direction. It's interesting how everybody has a different design idea in their mind. This ends up becoming, if you do that, a very linear council chambers where, you know, you all, well, if we do that, we're going to have to move you back to this side. But you all end up looking out quite a ways. And so we'd have to do some tests to make sure that it doesn't feel like claustrophobic in that room. But that would be one lower cost scenario. The bigger questions really for the council, and when the previous council was sat, we talked about this a lot, is whether, if you're going to do it, build it to what you think you're going to need for the next 15 or 20 years. This is a patch that's going to help us through this period of time. But I would almost suggest that, you know, resources, if resources are sufficient enough, you pick a site that's going to be what you really want it to be long-term, even if it's really expensive. Otherwise, it's better to just sort of have a smaller space and find other scenarios, I think. The first floor idea, by the way, was primarily because we felt it gave better curb appeal where people could see the public's business being done right from the public right-of-way. And it eliminated unnecessary trips up and down the elevator for everyone. But, you know, at $7 million, I'd just ride the elevator a little longer. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna, any comments from the public? Good. We have any cards?
We do, yep, first card, only card is Stan Nader.
Mr. Mayor and Council, during the construction of this City Hall building, the city was confronted with fiscal and operational challenges. As an example, at the last council meeting, staff attempted to adjust the room temperature several times with little success. In the past, the first floor meeting room had similar issues. My point in sharing this is I believe the city has bigger matters to address than adding a few more seats for the public and, quote, creating a more welcoming environment for those attending the council meetings. Given this matter of creating a dedicated council has been an issue for many years. The solution has its challenges, and funding is a tricky issue. 47% of the funding of this proposed project is coming from the general fund. When reading the city manager's cover letter in the 25-27 city budget on page 4, it states the city has a $3.6 million operational structural deficit. If you look up the meaning of this term, it is defined as a persistent, long-term imbalance where an entity, government, or organization, ongoing expenses exceeds its permanent revenue. regardless of the economic cycle. The word persistent means that not one-time crisis, but a recurring chronic gap. This means that regardless of how good the general economy is, financial challenges will persist. This should give the council great pause and thought before considering moving forward with this proposed project. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Any other cards? Look, Dollar.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say that the proposal that he's bringing up, it's a nice picture and everything, but is it really needed? If these guys need a comfortable chair, I can see that, getting a better chair for them. But when we come in, I have no problem the welcoming that I get because I sit in the corner and I watch everyone anyway. The money that is spent for this, because I know you guys are going to say yes anyway, could be used for other things. There's tons of things that can be used for it. Police, fire, lights for the old areas. I mean, the list goes on. And that's not even including the roads. And I know it's from a certain fund that goes only to a certain fund, but this money can be used for something else. And if you are going to use it, and if you are going to approve it, like I'm assuming you will, then you just might as well make it bigger and get it over with and done. Because there's no point in spending $300,000 for 5 years and then have to do it all over again. It's ridiculous to do that. Just do it right, spend the money, and get it over with. Otherwise, don't do it.
Thank you, Darla. Mr. Manager, didn't you say that a good portion of the money is going to be spent on systems, equipment, technology?
2/3 of the budget, so $200,000. So just one quibble. The PEG funds that I mentioned are technically, excuse me, I don't know what, are housed in the general fund, but they're restricted money. So I understand the perspective that, well, you could use them on something else. Sure, we could. And they would likely be clawed back by the organizations that submitted them because they were not used for their appropriate purpose, and then we would be backfilling those with general fund dollars. The comment about just going ahead and blowing out doing the full project, I actually tend to agree with that. But I think that this is what we can do with the restricted dollars we have. If you wanted, we've estimated that the full project, if we were going to fully outfit the room up here and blow that wall out and make it all the chambers, is probably a $2 million project. You know, to Mr. Nader's comment, that is a significant capital investment that should be planned for over some period of time. The other thing I'll just mention about any sort of general fund impact is there's a discernible difference between in a structural deficit scenario between one-time expenditures and reoccurring. So I have this discussion with department heads all the time when they want to hire a staff person. Sure, it seems like a one-time, let's say the person makes $50,000 a year. Well, it's just $50,000 a year. Well, yes, it is, plus benefits, plus every year, plus the next 30 years of their career here. Versus, one-time capital improvement that we hope provides some value.
In addition to doing, if it's 2 million now, what would it project, out to potentially be if we waited 5 to 10 years?
Then give me a CCI help. What is it usually? 3 to 4% higher? The construction cost index can be anywhere from 4 to sometimes 10%, depending on. So, will it be expensive later? Yes, absolutely. Can you afford it today? No. Not without giving something else up.
I think the other thing, the reality is that this city 10 years from now is going to be significantly different. And we have all this commercial land that's coming on, all these improvements. I mean, that's going to be driving, sales tax dollars to our general fund and to everything else that the city does. And so we're going to be a different city at that point. This seems to me that it's a good workable solution that's reasonably cost effective for the type of environment that we want to project. And if we can make it more user-friendly and flexible, that's great. But I think also considering the amount of money and the percentage of the project that's going into technology, which we would need at some point, no matter what, and all that could be transferable in the future. Technology keeps on getting cheaper, all the time. So it seems to me that this is a reasonable starting point for where we want to go.
Mayor, would it be useful if Jen Brown shared a little bit about sort of the useful lifespan of what we're using today, just so people can know from an expert's perspective?
As you've heard, all the microphone issues that we've had tonight, Christine's was off, Sean's has been off. So this equipment is 8 years old now. And it's ended, like it's at the end of its useful life, so it needs to be replaced. But as far as the way, what we're planning for, so we're planning for being able to swap out the equipment without having to do major overhauls of the equipment for this next project. For example, a lot of the dioceses that you'll see have like old monitors that are like within, like they're implanted in the wood. They, have a lot of the stuff that we were looking at. They have just USB-A ports and HDMI ports, which for anyone who it's just not necessary for how technology is now. And so the things that we're planning for are things that we can plan for the future for. It'll be much more, we can swap things out, make things better as the technology gets better. The cameras that we have, I'm sure the people at home are noticing that, my son was messaging me tonight saying, I can't read anyone's names, And so he's like, when are you going to get rid of that 720p? And I'm like, okay, whatever. So the video will be better. We'll just be providing a better experience for the people who can't be here in person, as well as the people who are here in person, so they can hear and see better.
Thank you, Jen. Any other questions?
Oh, I was just going to ask, I think you kind of, I don't want to belabor it, but the technology, if you were to do it in whatever time frame you were, the technology is reusable as well as even potentially the dais, right? Like, I mean, it's not as if the things that are sunk is like the carpet and the walls. That's a sunk cost, but it sounds to me like that's a relatively small percentage of the overall budget.
The only sunk costs are going to be paint, assuming that you don't think we should ever repaint anything, carpet, and some trenching in the floor to put wires under. Everything else, and most importantly, the dais is movable. In fact, this one that you're sitting at right now, if we had enough people with some muscle, could easily move it right now. It's not bolted in place. So it'll be transferable if you decide to move the chambers offsite or on the first floor or second or third. And then there is one other component here, which is that there's a lot of change occurring in Lincoln, not just in terms of population change, but also in terms of this building. The school district has inhabited the fourth floor here for a very long time. And I don't want to speak on behalf of the superintendent, but they are bursting at the seams on that level. They're almost out of space, if not out of space. And so we don't know how this building is going to be inhabited in the next 5 to 10 years. It may be that it's only the city of Lincoln here at some point. Don't know. So there's a lot of things that sort of are in motion at the moment that could change your calculus a little bit down the road.
Madam Clerk, anyone on Zoom?
No commenters through Zoom.
Okay. Very good. Any other comments?
I think it sounds like a lot of money, but at the same time, I know how much just home renovations and home remodels and construction costs are on smaller projects than this. So I'm not an expert, by any means in construction, but to me, from my experience, it seems that this is pretty well done to be able to accomplish all of those things in that amount of money. And, using those funds for technology improvements and giving everybody at home better experience, and more people are unable to attend and people travel more. So I like that it's making it more user-friendly from home, and the ADA improvements, we hear about that all the time. And I don't think that there's anything to be ashamed of having a professional environment and offering that to the people who live here and the residents. And this is, as our city manager was stating earlier this week, some of the biggest decisions, if not the biggest decisions in our city, happen in this room. And I think that that matters. And I think that the professionalism also carries on to our partners and prospective partners in economic development, and you can go on and on and on. But I think it has a trickle-down effect when we increase our professionalism and standards, that is kind of the reputation that will hopefully be moving forward.
And I agree. Do we need a vote on this, or is this an information item?
Yeah, I believe there's a resolution.
A resolution?
Attached,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, good. Do I hear a motion on the resolution?
Despite my reservations that I don't think people need to see me in HD, I'll move to approve the resolution.
Oh, I don't like that either. Yeah. Not a fan of that. Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carried. Very good.
Is
Thank
there some way to do like filters, and just kidding. Just kidding. Okay. Yeah.
All right, good. City manager reports.
Just a couple real brief things. One of council's items this year has been to have the city of Lincoln reapply for the All-America City Award, and a designation rather. And it's a very competitive program that takes in national applicants, and there's some criteria that they publish every year for themes essentially to be considered. This year is civic engagement and technology. And so we are, Aaron and Daniela have worked really hard to put together what I think is a really compelling application based mostly on a lot of the work that Jen Brown's department has done with the financial transparency portal, our tax sharing property tax map that is unique, I think, pretty much to Lincoln, and our GIS and mapping software, which has many things, including a development activity map where you can see what's going on in and around town anytime you'd like. And while we'd like those tools to get more use, they do actually get a good amount of use. And so we are making those the cornerstone of our application this year, and feel pretty confident. Obviously, I'm pretty sure they have a limited number they actually approve every year. And so sometimes it's like applying for a job. It's like, who are you competing against? Don't know. But we will keep you up to date on that. It's due by, I believe, the end of this month. And so we'll be submitting a little bit early, and we'll report back, hopefully get recertified again. And the only other thing is we are working, I'm trying to find a date, but one of the next workshops that we want to try to get on is a really important one also on the strategic plan, which is open space and the open space policy. So Lincoln has a 40% open space requirement. There's a lot of debate about whether or not it's actually been applied correctly over all of these years and what value it brings. And so we're putting together some different alternatives about, do you want to change that concept for all future development, or do you want to hold to the line of what it's been, or get more granular about how it's applied to project by project? So there's a lot of options. It'll probably be a pretty meaty one. I suspect we'll be there for at least an hour and a half. But so keep that on your radar. I'm hoping that we can have something plugged in either by the end of this month or in March. And the other thing, not so much relevant to everybody in the public, but the management and leadership training program that the city council approved a few months back is actually beginning at the end of this month. And so I'm going to be asking a couple, probably all of the council to come in individually and give their perspectives. And then I'll be reaching out to some members of the community as well to maybe do me a favor and come give a guest spot at some of these classes to give their perspective on what good public leadership looks like from their perspective so that the staff can start to learn a little more about that. So very exciting. It looks like our first class is going to have about 16 of our staff participating. So it's great across almost every single department in the city.
On the All-America City designation, the last time we won it, I believe it was 2006. And I think they only give out, what, to 10 per year? So it was a great honor for us to do it then, and it will be a great honor for us to receive it again, this year. Okay, good. Council initiated business. We'll start from my right.
I have received quite a few concerned emails and phone calls for the last few weeks about the Prairie Point cell phone tower project. And I was speaking to just informally with our city manager, and I copied our city engineer just to see if there was any conversations that had started yet with the applicant. I know it hasn't come through to Planning Commission yet, and just have a lot of residents that would like to know if we have any ETA on when that's coming to Planning Commission, if it'll be this month or next. And then also if there was any conversations about if there's any other alternatives to a big tower. And that was something that I was hoping that we could even have a conversation about as a council about future development. I know Councilmember Reedy and I had spoke about this before in the past, and reference to the city of Davis, and there's other cities that have done other sort of programs, is what you call it, where they do alternatives to towers, and they have like the small, what are they called? Like micro. Yeah, and they go on light posts, and I was reading that Verizon does that as well, and sometimes it's an answer to more residential areas versus a big tower. But I know that we do need service in 12 Bridges, and I think that the Q&A that was put on our website was really well done. So I really wanted to say that I appreciated that. I've been pointing everybody towards that for preliminary questions. I think that it answers most of them, but I would like to know if that is an opportunity, and then also moving forward, if it's something that we can get involved with in future development. What do we want? Because I know that we're going to need more. The more people that are using the towers, the more you need, because they're drawing from it. So, do we want to just do what everybody else does and have towers? Or is there something else that we can do as a city in our new growth developments, whether it's designating certain areas so that people know before they buy a home that they could potentially have a tower behind them, or is there something that we can do with, micro towers, like the city of Davis? So I just wanted to open the conversation up, and I don't know if it can be something that can be integrated into this, if it's, ship is already, what is that saying? Left the
Sailed.
dock? Ship
Sailed
the dock. Ship has sailed, or it left the dock.
It's gone.
For this project, but forward, that's kind of where I'm at.
I don't have anything, John. Ben? Good. Committee reports. I'll start with Ben.
But nothing really to update. It was mostly just general business.
John? Okay, good. I've got Pioneer Community Energy coming up again. Pioneer is, I think that about 80% of the people in the city are on Pioneer. The rate, generally, we've been saving a lot of people, residents in Lincoln have been saving a lot of money since we joined in the beginning of 2018. I think something along the lines of a net of $7 million. It's going to change a little bit next year, even though the fact that our generation rates are still below PG&E. The way PG&E calculates some of the, when you leave PG&E, you're responsible for residual costs. And so it hasn't been a problem for us in Lincoln. It's going to be a problem in 2026, in this year, and then it'll flip back again in our favor next year. So it's a work in progress. PG&E is an arcane type of organization. Trying to get information out of them, very difficult. We've had our problems with them just trying to get them to move on Highway 193. But anyway, but Pioneer still is a very good institution for us. They're very good public service. We do have the airport meeting coming up next week. Things are moving on there very nicely. I've got Air Pollution Control District coming up next week also. More to tell at that point. Whitney, anything?
Nope, I have LAFCO tomorrow and maybe EDC in the morning and airport next week and
Okay, good. Information items? Okay. I'll jump in. We did have the Chamber of Commerce Business Excellence Awards last Friday. It was a fabulous event. You guys, the Chamber did a marvelous job. We had it was a lot of fun. All of the winners truly deserve the award, and the people who were the runners-up, they deserve the award also, but there's only one winner. They really did a great job, and it was lovely to be upstairs in the event center. Steve Pagano and I think Tom and Drury's son did the catering. Fabulous experience. It was lovely to be up there. It was a very nice time. And so it's nice to see that building being used again. So that's what I've got. John? Okay, that's good. Ben?
It was very good cake.
Good cake?
Yes.
Yeah, we all paid for it, right? Okay, good. In that case, we're adjourned. Well, I had, wait a minute, I bought it, $35 worth on those cookies.